Good morning, children. Welcome to science class. In the previous class, we have discussed about the chapter physical and chemical change, right? Today also we are going to continue that chapter. So what is mean by physical and chemical change? Physical change means the change in the physical properties are called as physical change, right? Chemical change means the formation of new substances. When the change happenings, we form a new substance is called chemical change. And today we are going to learn an example for physical and chemical change. First, rusting of iron. You already know that, right? What is mean by rusting of iron? When we leave a iron in the house outside, few days later, a brownish color is formed on that, right? That brownish color is rust. Because of the rusting of that iron, it forms a brownish color above that. So today also we are going to continue that rusting of iron. Rusting of iron is an example of chemical change. Okay, this is the process of rusting of iron. When we leave the iron in the outside, oxygen is present in the air, right? That oxygen is react with that iron, and water also present in the outer air. So the iron and the oxygen and water reacts with the oxygen and water reacts with the iron, and it forms the rust. Fe means iron for us, iron, and O2 means oxygen that is present in the air, and H2O means water. These three react with each other and it forms the rust, that is Fe2O3 for iron oxide. Okay, that form the rust. This is the process of rusting of iron. For rusting, it need a oxygen and water vapor. That is essential for rusting of iron. In fact, if the content of moisture in the air is high, which means if it is more humid and rusting becomes very faster. If the oxygen present in the air is very high, moisture present in the air is very high, the rusting will be very faster. So how to prevent that rusting? If we coat the paint or grease continuously in a iron, we can prevent it. But other way to prevent the rust is galvanization. Galvanization means deposit a layer of metal like chromium, zinc on iron. That is the another way to prevent rust. And galvanization means the process of depositing a layer of zinc on the iron. The process of coating a layer of zinc on the iron is called as galvanization. And the iron pipes that we used in our home that used to carry water are galvanized to prevent the rusting. Okay, this is the galvanized iron. The coating of zinc above the zinc over the iron is called as galvanization. The ships are mainly made of iron particles, right? And the ship's part also always under the water, and the water of the sea contain salt, right? The water of the sea contain more salt, so the particles which are in the iron particles in the sea water will be rusted very fastly. So the ships also rusted very fastly. So the ships are replaced. The ship's iron has to be replaced every year, right? And next, crystallization. This is the example of physical change. Rusting of iron is the example of chemical change because there is a new substance. The rust is formed. A new substance is formed. Crystallization is the example of physical change. Let us see about that. You already know how we obtain the salt from salt water by evaporation, right? In the class 6th, you have learned about that. And we can't see the crystal. In the formation of salt, there is crystals or present. We can't see that crystals clearly in salts. But we can see the crystals in some places. The formation of crystals of pure substances are called as crystallization. The formation of crystals are called as crystallization. This is the form of a crystal. The crystals can be in many shapes. This is the form of crystals. And take a cup of water. Take a cup of water in a beaker and add few drops of dilute sulfuric acid into it. Take a cup of water in a beaker and add few drops of dilute sulfuric acid into it, and started boiling it, and add some copper sulfate powder, and mixing the solution slowly. Add some copper sulfate to it and continue add the copper sulfate powder and continue until no more the powder can be dissolved in that solution. So continually add that copper sulfate powder to that solution and keep it in another place. Let it cool. Allow it to cool, and after that don't touch that solution. Okay, and when it cools down, it forms the crystals like this. It forms the crystals like this. This is the example of crystallization. This is the process of crystallization. Okay, take a cup full of water in a beaker and add few drops of dilute sulfuric acid and heat the water. When it starts boiling, add copper sulfate powder. Slowly while mixing continuously, and continue adding copper sulfate powder till no more powder can be dissolved, and filter the solution and allow the solution to cool. And after that, don't disturb that solution. Don't touch that solution. When it cooling, it forms the crystals. This is the crystals of copper sulfate powder. Okay. This is the example of this is the example of physical change. Why? Because we can get the solution back by some process. Okay, so in this chapter you have learned about physical and chemical changes. You know to identify that, right? You know to identify what is physical change and what is chemical change. I hope you all understand this chapter well. Thank you, students.